You open your phone just for a second. 5 minutes later, you're watching an ad for a limited edition sneaker you never knew existed, but now it feels like you've wanted it your whole life. Your heart beats a bit faster. You picture yourself wearing it, and your thumb hovers over Buy Now. That little rush you feel is not random. It is dopamine, the brain's currency of anticipation and reward. And behind that rush is an entire industry of scientists, designers, and algorithms working together to trigger it on command. In this video, you will see how brands use variable rewards borrowed from casino design, social validation loops inspired by psychological experiments, scarcity and FOMO that manipulate your perception of value, and dark patterns in apps and websites that bypass your rational brain. By the end, you will understand not only how brands hack your dopamine, but also how this affects your financial decisions, your debt, and even your sense of self. And more importantly, you will learn mental and practical tools to take some control back. Because the truth is uncomfortable. You are not just the customer, you are the product, the test subject, and the data source. Most people think dopamine is a pleasure chemical. That is only half true. Dopamine is less about pleasure and more about wanting, about motivation, anticipation, and the drive to pursue rewards. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz's groundbreaking experiments in the 1990s with macaque monkeys revealed something revolutionary. Dopamine neurons in the basal ganglia increased in activity not when the reward arrived, but when the brain predicted a reward was likely. When the expected reward disappeared, dopamine dropped below baseline. This discovery changed marketing forever. The key insight: if you can control the pattern of rewards and expectations, you can control motivation and behavior far more powerfully than by offering a simple, predictable reward. Schultz discovered what he called reward prediction errors, the difference between the reward an animal expects and the reward it actually receives. This is the teaching signal that trains your brain what to pursue and what to avoid. In human terms, dopamine spikes when you see cues, a logo, a notification, a limited-time banner that predict a reward. The brain learns to associate those cues with that hit of dopamine. Over time, the cue itself becomes almost irresistible. Brands build entire ecosystems of cues, colors, sounds, notification styles, interface designs, even specific words that your brain learns to connect with small hits of dopamine. Here's what makes this especially powerful. Dopamine responds more strongly to unexpected rewards than to predictable ones. If you get the same reward every time, dopamine activity decreases over time. But if the reward is unpredictable, dopamine stays elevated, keeping you engaged and motivated to keep trying. This is why your favorite apps keep changing their features, introducing new elements, and surprising you with unexpected bonuses. They are preventing your dopamine system from adapting to predictable patterns. Walk into a casino and you are facing one of the most optimized dopamine machines on Earth. Slot machines use variable ratio reinforcement, a reward schedule where wins are unpredictable but possible at. Casinos discovered another powerful trick: the near miss. When a slot machine shows two matching symbols and one that's just slightly off, players experience a dopamine spike similar to actually winning, even though they lost money. Their brain interprets the near miss as almost winning rather than losing, which motivates them to keep playing. Social media platforms use this same principle. When you see 3 mutual friends liked this, or you're in the top 10% of users, you get a small dopamine hit that keeps you engaged even though you haven't actually achieved anything meaningful. Dating apps are perhaps the most obvious example. Each swipe is a pull of the slot machine lever. Most swipes result in nothing, but occasionally you get a match, variable ratio reinforcement at its finest. The near miss comes when you see someone attractive who didn't match with you, keeping you swiping in hopes the next one will be the one. A lot of marketing tricks are not accidents. They are built on decades of psychological experiments that revealed fundamental truths about human behavior. B.F. Skinner, a Harvard psychologist, showed that animals and humans can be trained to repeat behaviors when those behaviors are rewarded in carefully designed patterns. Press lever, get food. Press again, maybe get food. The pattern of maybe produced the strongest persistence. What made Skinner's work revolutionary was his discovery that the schedule of rewards mattered more than the rewards themselves. He identified several schedules. Continuous reinforcement, reward every time, creates fast learning but quick extinction when rewards stop. Fixed ratio, reward. Solomon Asch's famous experiments in the 1950s showed that people will knowingly give wrong answers if they see others doing it. In his studies, participants were asked to identify which line matched the length of a reference line. When Confederates, actors pretending to be participants, deliberately gave wrong answers, real participants went along with the group 37% of the time, even when the correct answer was obvious. Humans fear standing out. We are social animals, and for most of our evolutionary history, being excluded from the group meant death. This creates a powerful drive to conform. Brands use this through bestseller tags that may not reflect pure popularity, but are strategically placed to nudge you. Fake or heavily curated reviews to simulate consensus. Display counters. 30,000 people bought this today to trigger herd behavior. Trending now or most popular sections that may be algorithmically manipulated. Social proof adds dopamine by reassuring your brain if everyone is doing it, it must be good, safe, and rewarding. This reduces the perceived risk of a purchase and creates a fear of missing out on what everyone else is experiencing. Psychologist Barry Schwartz's research revealed that too many options actually paralyze decision-making and reduce satisfaction. When faced with 24 varieties of jam, people were less likely to buy than when faced with just 6 varieties. But marketers found a clever workaround. They use choice architecture to guide you toward specific options while maintaining the illusion of abundant choice. They might offer 3 pricing tiers where the middle one is clearly the best value, or they present customization options in a specific sequence that leads most people to similar configurations. This triggers dopamine in 2 ways. You feel empowered by having choices, and you feel smart for figuring out which option is best, even though the outcome was largely predetermined by how the choices were presented. Scarcity is one of the most powerful dopamine triggers because it combines reward anticipation with fear of loss. Behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed through profit theory that people are more driven to avoid losses than they are to pursue equivalent gains. This is called loss aversion, and it's hardwired into human psychology. Losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. Marketers weaponize this asymmetry. Marketers weaponize scarcity with countdown timers on product pages or sales pages that may reset when you refresh. Only 2 left in stock labels that may not reflect real inventory. Limited drops and collaborations that encourage camping in digital queues. This offer expires in 24 hours messages that appear every day. In the brain, scarcity amplifies value perception. A classic study by Stephen Wurtzel showed that people rated a cookie as more valuable and tasting better when there were only 2 in the jar versus 10, even though they were identical. Fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a specific form of anxiety that social media has amplified to unprecedented levels. When you see others enjoying experiences, purchases, or opportunities that you don't have access to, your brain experiences it as a form of social exclusion. Studies using fMRI scans show that social exclusion activates the same brain regions as physical pain. FOMO literally hurts, and brands exploit this pain by constantly showing you what you're missing. For some people, this becomes financially destructive. They chase every drop, every pre-sale, every early access opportunity, often on credit, because the emotional discomfort of missing out has been carefully amplified by brand communication. Scarcity also creates status hierarchies. If only 100 people in the world own a particular item, owning it places you in an exclusive club. This triggers dopamine through social reward, the anticipation of being recognized as part of an elite group. Credit card companies understand this deeply. Cards like American Express Centurion, the Black Card, or JP Morgan Reserve are deliberately difficult to obtain, not primarily because of financial requirements, but because the exclusivity itself creates desire. The scarcity is the product. Brands do not choose colors or sounds randomly. They A/B test them with millions of users to see which combinations increase clicks, time on site, and purchases. The science of color psychology. Red notification dots. Red is associated with urgency, danger, and attention across virtually all cultures. A single red dot can pull your focus away from everything else on the screen. Research shows that red increases heart rate and creates a sense of urgency that makes people act faster with less deliberation. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and most major apps use red for notifications because testing showed it generated the highest engagement rates. Blue for trust. Banks and financial platforms overwhelmingly use blue because studies show it creates feelings of trust, stability, and security. When you see blue in a financial app, your guard drops slightly. Orange for action. Buy now and add to cart buttons are frequently orange because it combines the energy of red with the friendliness of yellow, creating a sense of approachable urgency. Green for go. Confirmation buttons, continue prompts, and success messages use green because it signals safety, permission, and forward progress. Ding and vibration patterns. These are tuned to be just disruptive enough that you feel compelled to check them, but not so irritating that you turn them off. Sound designers test hundreds of variations to find the exact frequency, duration, and pattern that maximizes engagement. Slot machines use specific musical intervals, often a major third or perfect fifth, for wind sounds because these create feelings of resolution and satisfaction. Mobile games use the same principles. The swoosh sound when you send a message, the pop when you get a like, the cha-ching when a purchase is confirmed, all of these are carefully engineered to create small dopamine hits that reinforce the behavior. Progress bars and almost there indicators. When you see a bar at 80%, you get a small dopamine boost and a strong urge to complete the task, whether that task is finishing your profile, adding one more item for free shipping, or engaging with one more post to level up. This exploits the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological tendency to remember incomplete tasks better than completed ones. Incomplete tasks create tension, and completing them releases dopamine. LinkedIn is famous for this. Your profile is 85% complete, creates an itch that many users feel compelled to scratch, often adding information they wouldn't have otherwise shared. Inside companies, teams run endless experiments to optimize button placement and size. Larger buttons get more clicks, but too large feels aggressive. Words like continue versus buy now versus next. Each word carries a different psychological weight. Number of steps in a checkout process. Fewer steps increase completion, but certain steps increase total purchase value. Whether to show the total price right away or later. Hiding costs until later increases completion, but showing them early can increase trust. Each small change may increase conversion by just 1 to 3%, but combined across millions of users, that is enormous revenue, and it is driven by exploiting predictable patterns in how dopamine responds to friction, reward, and completion. Amazon's one-click ordering patent was worth billions because it removed the friction that gave people time to reconsider purchases. The faster you can move from impulse to completed purchase, the less time the rational brain has to intervene. Dopamine responds strongly not just to physical rewards, but to status, identity, and narrative. Brands learn that instead of simply saying, "This drink tastes good," they could say, "This drink is who you are." Think Different by Apple aligned a device with creativity, rebellion, and genius. The campaign featured Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King, and other iconic figures who challenged the status quo. The message was clear: if you use Apple products, you are joining this tribe of visionaries. Luxury car ads rarely talk about engines, fuel efficiency, or practical features. Instead, they show success, admiration, power, and aspiration. A Mercedes ad isn't selling transportation, it's selling the identity of someone who has made it. Sportswear spots from Nike focus on struggle, victory, and belonging, turning a shoe into a symbol of dedication and achievement. Just Do It isn't about footwear, it's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't make excuses.
Neuroscience studies using fMRI have shown that when people see brands they strongly identify with, regions of the brain associated with self-processing light up. Specifically, the medial prefrontal cortex, the area involved in thinking about yourself and your personal characteristics, activates when loyal customers see their preferred brands. The brand is processed not as an external object, but as part of the self. From a dopamine perspective, this is extremely powerful. An attack on the brand feels like an attack on you, triggering defensive reactions. A new product from the brand feels like a personal upgrade, an evolution of your identity. Owning the product releases tension created by the gap between who I am and who I want to be. This is why people go into debt for logo-heavy items or line up overnight for a phone that is only marginally better than their current one. They are not just buying tech or cloth, they are buying identity reinforcement, and their brains reward them with dopamine for reducing the psychological gap between their current self and their ideal self. Humans evolved in small tribes where group membership was essential for survival. We are hardwired to seek belonging and to favor our in-group over out-groups. Brands create artificial tribes: Apple versus Android users, Nike versus Adidas enthusiasts, Coca-Cola versus Pepsi drinkers, PlayStation versus Xbox gamers. These aren't just product preferences, they become identity markers. People display brand logos to signal tribal membership, and they defend their chosen brands with an emotional intensity that far exceeds what the actual product differences warrant. When you publicly commit to a brand, by posting about it, wearing it, or defending it, cognitive dissonance makes you even more loyal. Having told others you love this brand, changing your mind would create psychological discomfort, so your brain doubles down on the commitment. Brands also profit from the aspiration gap, the difference between who you are and who you want to be. Every advertisement showing an idealized version of life creates this gap, and then positions the product as the bridge. You see someone confident, attractive, successful, and happy using a product. Your brain automatically compares your life to that image, finds it lacking, and experiences discomfort. Then the brand offers relief. Buy this product and close the gap. The dopamine hit comes not from owning the product, but from the anticipation that owning it will transform you into that idealized version of yourself. This is why the actual purchase often brings less satisfaction than expected. The real reward was always the anticipation, not the reality.
In the past, a marketer could only guess which ad worked. They might run campaigns and measure overall results, but they couldn't track individual responses or optimize in real time. Today, every click, pause, scroll, hover, and purchase is tracked. Algorithms test thousands of variations in parallel and adapt in real time based on your specific behavior. Recommendation engines learn what content keeps you on the platform longest, and thus which patterns of surprise and reward produce the strongest dopamine cycles for you specifically. Netflix doesn't just recommend shows you might like, it tests which thumbnail images, descriptions, and categories make you most likely to click. The same show might be marketed as a romantic comedy to one user and a witty drama to another based on what language and imagery has historically worked for each person. YouTube's algorithm optimizes for watch time, which means it learns to recommend videos that trigger curiosity, emotional arousal, or controversy, whatever keeps your specific dopamine system engaged. Spotify's Discover Weekly creates the illusion of serendipity. Look what the algorithm found just for you. But it's carefully calculated based on your listening patterns and those of similar users. Dynamic pricing means the price of flights, ride shares, and even some products changes based on your behavior, location, device, and demand patterns. If you've searched for a flight multiple times, prices might increase because the algorithm interprets repeated searches as high intent to buy. If you're browsing from an expensive device or wealthy neighborhood, you might see higher prices. If it's late at night when decision-making is impaired, you might see more aggressive offers. This isn't paranoia. Multiple investigations have confirmed these practices. Companies call it price optimization, but it's personalized manipulation based on your vulnerability. Retargeting ads follow you across the web, reminding you of items you looked at but didn't buy, keeping that desire loop alive. Here's how it works. When you visit a product page, a tracking pixel logs your interest. Then that information is sold to ad networks, and suddenly you see that exact product on Facebook, Instagram, news sites, and seemingly everywhere you go online. This exploits the mere exposure effect, the psychological principle that people develop a preference for things simply because they're familiar with them. Each time you see the retargeted ad, your brain becomes slightly more convinced that you want the product, even though nothing about the product itself has changed. Retargeting also creates a form of social proof through repetition. If I'm seeing this everywhere, it must be popular and important. Your dopamine profile is not written in a lab notebook, but behaviorally, companies are building detailed models of what triggers your engagement. They know what time of day you are most likely to click, which thumbnails you can't resist, which words, free, limited, exclusive, new, spark action from you, how much friction you'll tolerate before abandoning a purchase, what type of social proof works on you, expert opinions, peer reviews, celebrity endorsements, which emotions drive your purchasing, fear, excitement, nostalgia, aspiration. Machine learning algorithms test hundreds of variables simultaneously to find the exact combination that maximizes your engagement and spending. This does not always mean malicious intent. Sometimes it is simply optimizing for engagement or revenue, but the effect is the same. Your environment is increasingly shaped to keep your dopamine system stimulated, often at the expense of your concentration, your peace of mind, and your financial health. Personalization also creates filter bubbles. You only see content that algorithms predict you'll engage with based on your past behavior. This creates echo chambers where your existing preferences and biases are constantly reinforced. For marketers, this is powerful because they can show you an increasingly narrow range of content that's perfectly calibrated to your specific triggers, making you more predictable and easier to influence. All of this has a direct impact on money. The dopamine manipulation techniques we've discussed aren't just affecting your attention and emotions, they're systematically draining your wallet. Buy now, pay later services like Klarna, Affirm, and Afterpay soften the pain of paying now, increasing purchases. Research shows that paying with credit hurts less psychologically than paying with cash, and buy now, pay later takes this even further by breaking the payment into future installments that feel abstract and manageable. Your brain registers the dopamine hit of the purchase now, but the pain of payment is delayed and distributed, making it feel less real. Studies show people spend 20 to 30% more when using these services compared to paying up front. The danger compounds when people use these services for multiple purchases simultaneously. You might have 5 or 6 different buy now, pay later commitments, each feeling small, but collectively consuming a significant portion of your income. One-click checkout removes friction that would give your prefrontal cortex a chance to intervene. Do I really need this? Can I afford it? Is this the best option? By removing those steps, companies ensure the impulsive, dopamine-driven part of your brain maintains control through the entire purchase process. Subscription models that auto-renew unless you opt out are designed to exploit inertia and set-it-and-forget-it psychology. Companies know that many subscribers will forget about monthly charges or find the cancellation process too annoying to bother with. A study found that the average person has $273 per month in subscription services, and most are unaware of their total subscription spending. Gym memberships are the classic example. Businesses model their entire profitability around people who pay monthly but rarely or never use the service. The dopamine manipulation here is in the initial sign-up. Companies offer free trials, introductory rates, or exclusive content to trigger the dopamine hit of gaining access. Once you're subscribed, inertia and optimism bias, "I'll definitely use this next month," keep you paying. Loyalty programs reward you with points, badges, and status, all dopamine hits, in exchange for more spending and data. Credit card rewards programs are particularly effective because they create a cognitive distortion. You feel like you're earning money by spending money. Research shows that people with rewards credit cards spend approximately 15% more than they would otherwise, far exceeding the typical 1 to 2% rewards rate. Airlines pioneered this with frequent flyer programs, creating tiers, silver, gold, platinum, that trigger status-seeking behavior. People will take inefficient routes, pay higher fares, or make unnecessary purchases just to reach the next tier, spending far more than the benefits are worth. In-app and in-game purchases feel like tiny microtransactions, but add up over time. 99 cents feels trivial. $4.99 for a premium upgrade seems like nothing. But for many users, these small purchases add up to hundreds or thousands per year. Mobile games deliberately design progression systems that create frustration, levels that are nearly impossible without power-ups, waiting times that can be bypassed with payment, or social pressure to keep up with friends who are spending. The dopamine trick is that each small payment produces an immediate relief from frustration and a small sense of progress, making it feel worth it in the moment. But the game is designed to create an endless cycle of frustration and relief through payment. For those already under financial stress, this becomes more dangerous. The same scarcity mindset that makes someone vulnerable to payday loans also makes them vulnerable to impulse purchases triggered by variable rewards and FOMO. When you're stressed about money, your cognitive bandwidth is impaired, as we discussed in the scarcity video. This makes you more susceptible to emotional spending as a form of stress relief. You might seek small, instant relief from stress through buying, a quick dopamine fix, and pay for it later with interest.
People often end the month asking, "Where did my money go?" It went, piece by carefully engineered piece, into systems designed to convert small, frequent dopamine hits into recurring revenue. This video is not about hating brands or technology. It is about understanding the game being played with your nervous system, so you can choose when to engage and when to step away. Here are practical ways to defend your dopamine and your money. 1. Create friction where they remove it. Companies spend billions removing friction from purchasing. You need to add it back strategically. Turn off non-essential notifications. Make checking apps a choice, not a reflex. Go into settings and disable notifications for everything except truly time-sensitive communications. Disable one-click purchases where possible. Require a password or extra step. Remove saved payment methods from shopping sites you tend to browse impulsively. Remove saved cards from sites you impulsively buy from. The extra steps of finding your wallet and entering payment information give your rational brain time to wake up and question whether you really need the purchase. Use browser extensions that block retargeting ads or make you wait 10 seconds before checkout. 2. Separate deciding from buying. The moment of desire and the moment of purchase should be separated. Create a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. When you feel that "I need this now" urge, add it to a list, but don't buy it for 24 hours. Many urges fade when the dopamine spike wears off. Keep a "want later" list. If an item still feels important after a week or a month, reconsider it. Research shows that 60 to 70% of impulse desires fade within 48 hours. Set purchase thresholds. For example, items under $20 can be bought after 1 day. Items under $100 after 3 days. Items over $100 after 1 week. 3. Budget for fun on purpose. Denying yourself all pleasure spending usually backfires. Instead, set a clear fun money budget each month.
Then you can enjoy small dopamine hits without guilt or financial chaos. This satisfies the need for occasional rewards while maintaining control. When the fun budget is spent, you stop, no matter what limited-time offer appears. This pre-commitment removes in-the-moment decision-making. Track your spending with apps that categorize purchases automatically. Awareness of patterns is the first step to changing them. 4. Notice the patterns explicitly. Naming manipulation weakens its power. Call out the technique. Next time you see a countdown timer, a red dot, or only 2 left, say out loud or think clearly, they are trying to trigger urgency. This activates your analytical brain and creates distance from the emotional reaction. When you scroll and refresh, ask, what lever am I pressing right now? What reward am I hoping for? This metacognitive awareness helps you see the Skinner box you're in. Before clicking Buy Now, ask, am I buying this product or am I buying the feeling this product promises? Often, the real purchase is dopamine relief, not the item itself.
5. Build your own dopamine sources. The best defense is offense. Create alternative sources of dopamine that are healthy and aligned with your goals. Exercise produces genuine dopamine, endorphins, and a sense of accomplishment. Learning and skill building trigger dopamine through progress and mastery. Creative projects engage dopamine through problem solving and creation. Deep social connection activates social reward circuits. The more of these you have, the less attractive, artificial, expensive dopamine hits will feel by comparison. You're not relying on willpower to resist temptation. You're building a life where the temptation is less tempting. 6. Use environmental design. Your environment shapes your behavior more than willpower does. Keep your phone in another room at night or during focused work time. Use separate devices for work and entertainment when possible. Arrange your home to make healthy behaviors easy and unhealthy ones harder. Put books in easy reach and hide your credit cards in a drawer. Unsubscribe from marketing emails aggressively. Every email you don't see is a manipulation you avoid. 7. Practice delayed gratification deliberately. Build your resistance to immediate dopamine. Meditation trains your brain to sit with discomfort without immediately seeking relief. Weight training. Practice waiting 5 minutes before checking a notification, then 10, then 30. This weakens the automatic response pattern. Fasting or other voluntary constraints teach your brain that desires don't have to be immediately satisfied. These practices aren't about punishment. They're about building the psychological muscle to choose long-term satisfaction over short-term dopamine hits. The techniques we've discussed aren't just affecting individuals. They're shaping society in ways that deserve serious ethical consideration. Is it ethical to use psychological manipulation techniques on people who don't understand what's happening? Children, people with addiction vulnerabilities, those experiencing financial stress, they're disproportionately affected by dopamine hacking. Some jurisdictions are beginning to regulate this. The European Union's Digital Services Act includes provisions against dark patterns, interface designs meant to manipulate users. China has regulated gaming companies to limit playtime for minors and has banned certain types of loot boxes. But regulation lags far behind innovation. By the time governments understand and restrict one technique, companies have developed 5 more. We're living in what some call the attention economy, where human attention is the scarce resource that companies compete for. But attention isn't unlimited. It's a zero-sum game. Time spent on one app
is time not spent on relationships, learning, creativity, or rest. The social cost of optimized dopamine manipulation includes rising rates of anxiety and depression, particularly among young people, decreased attention spans and ability to engage with complex ideas, financial stress from impulse spending and debt, erosion of privacy as behavioral data becomes the currency of the internet. Some researchers and ethicists argue for mandatory disclosure when psychological manipulation techniques are being used, nutrition labels for apps showing how much time users typically spend and what percentage exhibit compulsive usage patterns, fiduciary responsibility for platforms requiring them to act in users' best interests, education about these techniques starting in schools, right to disconnect protections in employment law. The challenge is that these techniques are enormously profitable, and the companies using them have strong incentives to resist regulation. Marketers and platforms will keep improving at hacking human attention and dopamine. That trend is not going to reverse. The techniques will become more sophisticated, more personalized, more difficult to detect and resist. But you are not powerless. The more you understand how your brain works, the less hackable you become. When you recognize variable rewards disguised as engagement, scarcity and FOMO disguised as exclusive opportunities, identity manipulation disguised as finding your tribe, micro-friction removal designed to bypass your rational mind, you can pause and ask the most important question: is this my goal or theirs? The brands, platforms, and algorithms have one goal: maximize engagement and revenue. That's not inherently evil, it's just business. But your goals are different. You want financial security, meaningful relationships, personal growth, and autonomy over your choices. The conflict between their goals and yours is inevitable. The only question is whether you'll be aware of that conflict or blind to it. If this video opened your eyes to how brands and platforms are shaping not just what you buy, but how you feel and what you want, then help get this message to more people. Hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this is worth sharing. And yes, I see the irony of using engagement manipulation to spread a message about engagement manipulation. But the information matters. Subscribe to Paper Reality if you want more deep dives into the hidden psychology behind money, markets, and the stories that shape our financial lives. We're building a community of people who understand these systems and use that knowledge to make better decisions. Comment below, what is one marketing trick you now see differently, and what is one change you will make to protect your attention and your wallet? See you in the next video.